that she is now the OT-CERT at Dragos. She is their Operations Technology Cyber Emergency Readiness Team at Dragos. Cybersecurity risks in OT environments continues to rise, and many organizations struggle for the resources and expertise to address them, especially small to medium-sized businesses. So her OT-CERT provides free resources to help them build a foundational OT cybersecurity program. As I said, she was the former CISO at Rockwell. After serving as the director of Insider Risk, she was the founder and director of Carnegie Mellon CERT Insider Threat Center and started her career as a software engineer, programmer, nuclear power plants for Westinghouse. She co-authored the CERT Guide to Insider Threats, How to Prevent, Detect, and Respond to Information Technology Crimes, which was inducted into the cybersecurity canon, a list of must-read books for all cybersecurity practitioners. She is a certified information security professional, holds a BS in computer science and mathematics from the University of Pittsburgh, is the co-founder of Open Source Insider Threat Information Sharing Group and a member at the RSA Conference Program Committee and the CyberWire Hash Table. She was awarded the Pittsburgh Technology Council's 2022 CIO Choice Lifetime Achievement Award, inducted into the ISSA Hall of Fame in 2021, honored as a member of the 2021 CISO's Top 100 CISOs, 2020 CISO 100, and named Pittsburgh CISO of the Year in 2018. I usually don't read everyone's bio, but Dawn has way too much. She's done too much for me not to have read all that. So I'm very, very honored that she said yes to come and be our keynote speaker today. Today she's going to talk on geopolitics meets cybersecurity, safeguarding your security in a shifting world. We will have Q&A open at the last 15 minutes. So if you have a question, please wait for my team to come with the mic, because we want to make sure that our virtual audience can hear your questions. And my virtual audience out there, we would love to hear from you. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box, and my back-end team will make sure Dawn gets your questions. So everyone, let's welcome Dawn Cappelli to the stage.
Wow, I will give you a shorter bio next time, Kim. I'm really excited to be here today. I was born, raised in Pittsburgh, never left, so that really cool career that I have had, I've done everything from Pittsburgh, and I love to say that to people in Pittsburgh because, you know, at one point in my career, I thought, how much am I going to be able to do without leaving the city? And I never would have dreamed that I would have done what I did. Another message I always give is when they say, how did you plan your career path? Believe me, there was no plan. Things just kind of dropped in my lap. So today, I'm going to talk about geopolitics meets cybersecurity, safeguarding your security in a shifting world. I have to say that's the best title I've ever had for a presentation, thanks to ChatGPT. I put my original title in, I said, can you make this a little bit jazzier? And it made it too jazzy, and then we kind of went back and forth. I showed it to my husband. I said, this is amazing how well this worked. Don't ever put any confidential information into ChatGPT, but for something like this that's all public, it is a pretty cool tool. So you already heard about my background. I will tell you more about Dragos OT-CERT later, not because I'm trying to sell you, because it's totally free. And when Kim said I tried to retire and then I came back, I knew when I retired I was going to want to keep my fingers in security. I can't resist. I have a passion for fighting the bad guys. But I did want to spend time with my two little grandkids, and so I am now semi-retired. I work half-time for Dragos, and half-time I get to watch those two little, AJ and Lily. So I came out of retirement because I have always been, since I started my career in security, my first career in security, I'm just going to say this real quick. I didn't intend to, but since she kind of did this slide, I have a few minutes. I started my career in security. I thought, oh, security's pretty interesting. CERT is right here at Carnegie Mellon. I think I'll try to get a job there. And so I got a job, knew nothing about cybersecurity, got a job as a project manager, working with the CERT had just gotten a project with the Secret Service to help them to bring cyber to their protective mission. Their protective mission used to be gates, guards, and guns, and they realized, I think we need to factor cyber into this. So they said the first thing that we need to protect is the Salt Lake City Olympics, and so you're going to be the project manager. And I'm like, wow, how did I get this job? I get to work with the Secret Service protecting the Olympics, and I know nothing about security. I can't believe they're paying me for this. So it was the coolest job ever. Till a month later, 9/11 happened. And so all of a sudden, that cool, fun job became very, very real, because they really thought that the next target of the terrorists was going to be the Olympics. And so that awakened this passion in me to protect and to fight the bad guys. And so when I retired, I knew I still wanted to, be part of the fight. And I had gotten a passion for helping small organizations, small and medium, who really can't afford security, don't have any expertise in security. So I got offered this position to build OT-CERT for Dragos, to offer free resources for small and medium organizations to help them build a security program, and I couldn't resist. So I call myself the security fairy godmother now. That's my informal title. But who is Dragos? Just in case you don't know who we are, who here does know who Dragos is? Oh, that's good. Good number. In case you don't, so we're an industrial cybersecurity company. We don't do IT security, we only do industrial. We have a platform which only runs in industrial environments. Very different than IT. IT and OT are totally different. Think of this laptop, think of your business systems versus a big plant where they're generating electricity, controlling water, producing chemicals, producing pharmaceuticals, packaging cookies, packaging anything. So OT is very different than IT. Our platform is OT only. It detects threats. It helps manage vulnerabilities, helps with asset management. We have an OT threat intelligence team. They do nothing but look at operational technology cyber threats. Operational technology, OT, that's plants, that's industrial control systems. Everything they find, they build right into the platform. So we're working really hard to stay ahead of the adversaries, to take what we see is happening and to get it into our platform so that we can protect our customers. And then we have expert services, consultants that do pen testing, risk assessments, incident response. And I can tell you right now, our incident response team, we keep breaking our own record because we have more concurrent incident response cases than we've ever had. And this is only in industrial environments. And this is really scary, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Even if you don't have an OT environment, you really should care, and I'm going to talk about why. So, how many here have an industrial environment? Your company produces something. Okay, not that many. So you might be saying, well, why do I care? Well, at least I get to eat lunch while she talks, so I won't be too bored. Well, here's why you should care. If your water is gone, if your water supplier gets hit with a cyber attack, is your business still going to function? If your power is taken down, if they're hacked, oil and gas, look at Colonial Pipeline and the impact that that had. when that was hacked? How about the computers on your desk? You order computers for your employees and all kinds of other supplies that are manufactured somewhere. What if those vendors are hit? What about your data center? Your data center has building automation systems. That is OT. What about transportation? What if your suppliers can't get their product to you because transportation has been hit? And all of these sectors are being hit. Like I said, the reason I told you so much about Dragos is that's where my information is coming from. So this is not based on studies out there. This is based on what we are actually seeing. I added this slide yesterday, so this is how dynamic this whole situation is. I know you can't see it exactly, but you can kind of get an idea. This came out yesterday, or 2 days ago, from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and it shows all of the attacks against industrial control systems in the United States from November 23rd, 2023 to April 22nd, 2024, 5 months. Those are all of the attacks against ICS that the government knows about. If you look at the states, you can probably see the map. There are only 2 states that are red. Those 2 states have more than 3 attacks against industrial control systems. One of them is Pennsylvania. And then if you dig into Pennsylvania, which I know you can't see, but we have food. Well, in November, the Full Pint Brewery in Pittsburgh was hacked. We have water. The Aliquippa water utility was hacked. Anybody here from the Aliquippa water utility? That would be really amazing. I'd love to talk to you. And then there's another one that says township. I know we've had towns hacked in Pennsylvania. I didn't know about a town that had their ICS hacked, so I'm not sure what that one is. But sitting here in this room, we have to realize we can't say, it's not going to happen here, though, because it is happening here, and it's happening here more than it is anywhere else. So all of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today comes from our year in review. Every year, we do a look back and we look at everything that our threat intel team has found, everything that our platform has detected in our customers, and everything we've learned from doing assessments, and we put out a year in review. That's where most of this data comes from, but this is so dynamic that it is changing constantly. So this deck I keep up to date. Like I said, I just added that ODNI slide yesterday. So this is pretty much up to the minute what's going on. And hopefully you all care, because you care about your water, you care about your electricity, you care about everything you go and buy at Giant Eagle. Remember when Clorox was hit? You couldn't get Clorox wipes. We don't want that to happen. So this is one thing we track, threat groups. And if you look, the left-hand side is 2017, the right-hand side is 2023. Every year, new threat groups appear. These threat groups are specifically targeting industrial control systems. So these aren't all those ransomware groups. Every day it seems like there's a new one who's targeting IT. And I am not saying that's not important. I used to be a CISO. It's important. But these are groups specifically targeting industry. And so we have new ones coming up all the time. And another thing that is really important to understand is ICS malware. So we see new threat groups all the time in IT every day. We also see new malware all the time. It's always popping up. They're always finding new ways to get into our IT systems. But industrial control systems are much more complicated. And that kind of goes to our benefit when it comes to ICS malware, because from 2010 to 2022, there were only 5 types of malware that targeted industrial control systems. That's it, 5. And they were very targeted. They targeted a specific company or a specific sector, and they targeted a specific device by a specific vendor. Then in 2022, that all changed. And I feel like as security professionals, even if you are in IT security, it's important that you understand this, because this isn't just security, this is our life. I forgot to say, the Dragos mission is safeguarding civilization. That's what drives us. And I think my goal for this presentation is that you all get it, that our very way we live our lives is being threatened. And I know that sounds like fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but I'm going to give you real proof. So in 2022, suddenly that number of ICS malware families went from 5 to 7. And one of them in particular that we call Pipe Dream changed the game. It changed the game, changed the threat completely. This is the first malware that it doesn't target a specific vendor, a specific device, a specific sector like they have in the past. It targets ICS protocols, 5 of them, that are used by hundreds of vendors in thousands of products. This means that this malware can be used in any sector, in any country, against thousands of different ICS devices. So this totally changed the game. The good news is that the US government discovered Pipe Dream before it was used. To me, this is pretty amazing. I don't know who in the US government, I kind of have my thoughts about who, but somebody discovered Pipe Dream and it hadn't been used yet. So they went to security companies like Dragos. Actually, they came to us. We reverse engineered it, figured out what does this thing do, and then we were able to check and see, have we seen this in any of our customers? Other security vendors did the same thing. It still hasn't been used. So this was discovered in 2022. It's now 2024, and it still hasn't been used. But the thing is, it's out there. And think about Cobalt Strike. Probably most of you know what that is. It's kind of like the universal tool for compromises in IT. This could be the Cobalt Strike of OT if the wrong people would get their hands on this. So that's pretty scary. What can you do about it? You have to build a comprehensive OT security program. That's kind of the good thing about discovering it 2.5 years before it's used. We have time, so we need to get critical infrastructure moving. So now let's get into geopolitics, and how has that impacted the whole threat landscape? So we have the Ukraine-Russia war. It used to be, for years, there were discussions about what will we do if a state actor attacks our critical infrastructure with a cyber attack? What will the US do? I don't think we still have an answer to that question. But, if you how many here remember the Cold War, or are old, like me? So in the Cold War, there was a term, mutually assured destruction. If Russia launches a nuclear bomb at the US is going to launch a nuclear bomb at Russia, everything's going to blow up, and the world will be destroyed. So no one's really going to launch a nuclear bomb. And so in the cybersecurity world, it's kind of been like that. Like there was a line that no one really was willing to cross, except Russia, because they did bring down the Ukraine power grid twice before this war. So they were willing to cross that line, but only with Ukraine. Well, that has totally changed now, because since the Russia-Ukraine war has started, we have had attacks against critical infrastructure all over the world. And I'm going to talk about that more in a few minutes. Because we not only have state actors, governments that are launching these attacks, but now we have hacktivists. These hacktivists want to cause panic, and they want to negatively impact the public's perception of the resiliency of our critical infrastructure. Now, you know, who remembers Anonymous? Anonymous was like the first big hacktivist group. And ever since then, like hacktivists who are ideologically motivated, they would commit DDoS attacks, they would deface websites, but they didn't really have a very sophisticated technical capability. Well, that has totally changed. And I'm going to be talking about that next. The hacktivists have raised their game, and it's totally changing the security and resiliency of our critical infrastructure around the world. In addition, we have China and Taiwan. We have seen targeted cyber espionage by China. We have a threat group that we call VoltSite. Microsoft calls them Volt Typhoon. The US government, the FBI director came out and said, China is in our critical infrastructure and they are poised for an attack. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what they're doing because we have personal experience with VoltSite at Dragos. So in late 2023, a medium-sized water and power utility bought Dragos. They put in our platform and they employed our threat hunters. This is medium, so this isn't a huge water authority or power authority, medium-sized. So we put in the platform, the threat hunters got to work, and we found that more than 300 days earlier, they had been compromised by VoltSite. What VoltSite did was they exfiltrated data. Now, we hear about that all the time. My husband got a letter this morning about his data has been exfiltrated in a data breach. But this is different because what they stole was details not on IT, but on how the plants work, on the operational processes in the water plant, in the power plant. They stole configurations of OT devices, geographic information systems, SCADA system configurations. And what really clicks for me is lists of critical customers. The reason that I find that significant is OT-CERT, I told you a little bit about it. It's for small and medium organizations. We provide free resources for them to secure their OT environments. We have a member who is from a medium water authority in the United States. And the DoD has been increasingly scrutinizing their security program because one of their critical customers is a military base. And the Department of Defense realizes we can't run a military base with no water. So they're really looking at that water authority. So why do you think VoltSite stole the critical customer lists? They're very strategic. They are looking, they're infiltrating our critical infrastructure and then looking at who will I impact if we attack this organization. Very scary. So we did additional threat hunts then. Now we knew exactly what to look for. We knew what VoltSite does. I forgot to say, a lot of attacks in OT, they start in IT. They get into IT through phishing, through unpatched vulnerabilities, and then they just spread throughout the network and they happen to be able to get into the OT environment, and so they do. Well, in this case, they didn't happen to get into OT. They deliberately went into OT. So they were after that operational technology information. So then we did hunts across all of our subscribed customers, and we did find VoltSite was in other customers as well. And then we were able to notify them. So this is real. This is really happening. Now let's talk about cyber avengers. So this is Aliquippa. The cyber avengers, it's a how many heard about Aliquippa, by the way? Okay, a lot of us probably because we're here, it was on KDKA. But the Cyber Avengers pro-Hamas hacktivist group, they first attacked Aliquippa. And when I heard that on the news, I thought, I can't believe they attacked Aliquippa. Like, this is my goal in life, that things like this don't happen in Pittsburgh. I'm right here. But they got Aliquippa. And the reason they got them was because they were looking for any Unitronics PLCs, which are made in Israel, that were exposed to the internet with default passwords. So they got Aliquippa, and then they got a bunch of other water utilities. They got the Full Pint Beer Brewery in Pittsburgh. They got an Ireland water scheme, which resulted in 180 families having no running water for 2 days. And the message that came up on the screen was, every equipment made in Israel is Cyber Avengers' legal target. So right after New Year's, CISA came out and they said that the Cyber Avengers are working with the Iranian government. Well, wow, that's a new one. Now we see a hacktivist group teamed up with a state government. So think about that mutually assured destruction. This gives the Iranian government a way of attacking critical infrastructure around the world with plausible deniability. I didn't do it. That was those Cyber Avengers. That wasn't us. So that was the first thing that happened. But then it happened again in April. This time it was the Cyber Army of Russia Reborn, another hacktivist group, who has now been tied to the Russian government. The Cyber Army of Russia Reborn, they attacked water utilities in Texas, and then they proceeded to attack others around the United States. And they went in, and it was low-hanging fruit. They're going after low-hanging fruit. So I implore all of you out there as security professionals, make sure that your basic cyber hygiene is taken care of, because they're going after easy targets here. So they posted a video on their Telegram channel, and they posted a bunch of different videos and screenshots showing, just bragging about what they were doing. In addition to the water utilities here in the US, they also broke into a Polish wastewater treatment plant. That's what this video is of. And so I'm just going to play a little snippet of the video for you. Who recognizes the music? I mean, to me, like, it just makes my blood boil, because it's, if you don't know, Super Mario Brothers game, video game. And so to them, like, to set that to that music is taunting to me. It's like, this is a game to us. Look how easy this is. They're flipping buttons, they're changing numbers. In Texas, they made a giant water tank overflow for, I can't remember how long, but long. And to them, this is just a game. This is no big deal. But they are attacking our critical infrastructure, and they're tied to the Russian government. So this is what we are up against now, and it's important that we all understand that. There are other hacktivists that have been active since in 2023. So this is out of our year in review report. Cyber Army of Russia Reborn, they attacked industrial organizations in Europe in May of 23. No Name 057 attacked Europe and NATO organizations. They attacked manufacturing and transportation. Anonymous Sudan, they attacked the US and other NATO countries. Pro-Hamas groups, Cyber Avengers, and Team Insane. We know that someone disrupted the Israeli railways, an Israeli power grid, and an Israeli hydroelectric plant. They claimed that they did it. Predatory Sparrow, we also know that gas stations all over Iran were down in December, and Predatory Sparrow claimed responsibility for that. And cyber avengers, we already talked about them, but not only did they attack the US and Europe, but also Australia. So this is happening. This is real. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And so we need to all help protect our ecosystem. We need to, as a security community, to be reaching out and making sure that we're spreading the word, and security professionals and business leaders understand how important security is right now. And then let's not forget about plain old ransomware. How many, no one will probably raise their hand. Has anyone been hit with ransomware that would actually put your hand up? Probably not, no. But I mean, it's very prevalent. We track every single ransomware attack that is successful against industrial organizations all over the world. And in 2023, it went up 50% from the year before. 70% of those were targeted at manufacturing. Manufacturing, I can tell you from being at Rockwell, it's hard to recover. It's complicated. And so you're much more likely to pay the ransom, and people must pay because they keep hitting them. This shows where those ransomware incidents were: 44% in North America, 32% in Europe, and then the rest were scattered. So anybody have any questions or comments? It looks like you're not asleep, so I'm happy about that. Anybody? Let's make it interactive. Somebody, please. Oh, come on, really? Okay, thank you. Okay, we need the mic up here. I think you do for the virtual audience.
So you're focused a lot on the industrial control systems for manufacturing. So as a corporate firm, we often have ICS too, that we don't have any or a little or no visibility in, right? We validate, hey, it's air gap, that's all I care.
It's not.
Well, I get it, right? But it's, so do you see that kind of attack where you're going to say, hey, somebody attacks a large firm's, HVAC system or their elevators or something like that?
Yes. They are definitely getting in through building automation systems. And so, yes, I would say every company here has building automation systems in your buildings. And that is, that's a vector that, yes, you definitely need to be concerned about. And you're exactly right. That's one at Rockwell, trying to get our hands around IoT was really, really tough. And so, yeah, you want to include that in your cybersecurity strategy.
Yeah, I just want to mention, that's the old target hack. Mm-hmm. And that's also a third-party risk thing. So not only is it you might not even fully control that. So I just want to mention, one of the biggest breaches ever is based off of a backdoor attack.
Are you going to make him repeat that? Yeah.
I mean, that kind of attack was, again, kind of using the industrial as a backdoor. I'm just citing the Target attack from a couple years ago as an example of that ended up being a massive information security issue. So, yeah, that's already happened.
Exactly, and I don't know if you know this, but the HVAC company that enabled the Target hack is from Pittsburgh. So, yes, definitely an issue, has been an issue, and it's a threat not only to your OT, but to your whole network. Everything. And as far as the air-gapped issue, we haven't encountered a single customer that actually is air-gapped. Everybody thinks they're air-gapped, but nobody actually is air-gapped. Okay, let me go on then and talk about, this is another good news story. You're probably thinking, what, you had a good news story? But remember when I talked about Pipe Dream? I talked about the US government found it before it was used, and then we could all kind of get out ahead of it. Well, it happened again. And to me, being in security since 2001, this is really exciting to actually see us getting to the left of boom, as they say. So last July, a year ago, CISA and Rockwell Automation disclosed 2 vulnerabilities in Rockwell products. And once again, the US government had found exploits that were already developed against these vulnerabilities that no one even knew existed. So they went to Rockwell and they said, you have 2 vulnerabilities. There are already exploits available. You need to write patches, figure out remediation strategies as quick as you can before the exploits are used. Then they came to us and they said, what's this malware do? Like we reverse engineered it, figured out what it did. And oops, I have another slide on this actually. So we looked at the exploits, we looked at what they did, we looked at the vulnerabilities, and then we tested and developed signatures for our platform so that if those exploits were used, we could detect it immediately. And we also looked for all of our customers that had the vulnerability and notified them, this is a serious vulnerability, you better patch immediately. And then we were able to look, using those detections we wrote, to see, has the exploit been used against any of our customers? And so by the time that disclosure was made in July of 23, we already, the Rockwell customers knew we need to patch right away, and a lot of them already had, if they were a customer of ours or a customer of our competitors who were also brought in. And then we had the detection. So anyone that had a platform, they had protection against it. So to me, this is amazing. For years, we keep hearing public-private partnership. The government and public sector have to work together. We have to share information. I see you shaking your head, Doug. And we keep hearing it, and it's like, yeah, nothing ever happens. Well, it's now happening, and this is really good news. So I always like to throw in some good news there, that we are getting ahead of the adversaries in some cases. So now what can you do about it? I want to go until like 12:45 and then open it up for questions. Anybody else have anything you want to talk about? Oh, you do, Mike?
No, on screen we have somebody who's virtual.
Oh. Is it likely the incidents are related to the degree of industrialization, higher number in the US because of higher levels of automation and sophistication? Well, interestingly enough, a lot of these attacks that we're seeing are against the low tech. They're against the unsophisticated. So they're going against the low-hanging fruit. That's what the hacktivists have been targeting. So that, no. But on the other hand, Pipe Dream and the exploit against Rockwell, that could be because of that, the increased sophistication of our environments. It actually kind of makes it easier for the bad guys because we're more sophisticated, but we're more standardized. Our CEO, Rob Lee, talks about this all the time. It used to be there was a lot of customization in plants, and they all worked differently, and they had their own protocols. But now they're becoming more and more standardized, and that makes it easier for the bad guys. It makes it easier to write malware that will attack more victims. So I don't know if that answered the question, but hopefully that came close. Yes, wait, we need the mic. Okay, you're close.
Thank you. Sort of on that note about, industrialization proportional to the attacks, the earlier slide showed Australia had 1% of attacks, which was, a fifth of South America. And is there any particular reason for that shockingly low number? I mean, it seems, do they not report as much over there? Is there policy or?
That's a really good question because we do a lot of business in Australia. And so, and the US government, UK, Australia, the Five Eyes, we all work together very closely. So, I don't have a good answer for that. I know they're being hit. That number may go up in 2024. but they're big Dragos customers. There's a lot of awareness in Australia to the risk. Maybe that's why, because we have a lot of customers in Australia. Maybe they're better protected. I can't give you a good answer on that, but good catch.
Thanks.
I am going to look into that. Okay, anything else? Oh, over here. You're going to get your exercise.
Can you offer any advice on building like an asset management program to track all the ICS devices? One of the problems is knowing exactly what's out there, and these devices seem to be easier to implement in these organizations.
Yes. The very first thing you should do is have an asset management program. That's the first thing we did at Rockwell, because we felt like if we don't know what we have, how can we possibly secure it? And if you join OT-CERT, we have an asset management toolkit, totally free. There's a video, a guide, and a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet you can just hand to your engineers. They walk through your plants and they just fill it in. They literally walk the plant floor. So they're finding physical devices that you may not even see on your network if you're just looking at anomalous network traffic, because they might not even be doing much. I know we find like cellular modems, vendors come in, the vendor puts the cellular modem in and the company doesn't even know that they put it there. So yes, asset inventory, asset management is really important. You can do it with a spreadsheet. It's how we started at Rockwell, and Rockwell's a Fortune 500 company. We had lots of plants, lots of assets. Now there's technology available, so Rockwell doesn't use spreadsheets anymore. But if you need to start somewhere and you don't have the money to buy an asset management tool, then you can use spreadsheets. Okay, I'm going to go into the last part, which is what can you do about it? Our CEO, Rob Lee, worked with Tim Conway, who is the head of the SANS Institute, and they came up with the 5 critical controls for world-class OT cybersecurity. And they did this by looking at all of the successful attacks that have happened against ICS and looked at them and said, what would have stopped this, or what would have led to earlier detection? And that's where these came from. So this is based on analysis of real data. First of all, you need an ICS incident response plan. How many of you have an incident response plan just for your IT, for your enterprise? I mean, you need that no matter what. I heard one of the speakers this morning say that. If you have an OT environment, you need a separate one. There will be a lot of overlap, the whole part about PR and who do we call, who's our legal, do we bring in external counsel? All of that kind of thing will be overlap with the IT. But believe me, at Rockwell, when we would have customers that were hit with ransomware, and they would call us and say, our company's been hit with ransomware, our IT department brought in an incident response firm, there is no way we're letting them in our plants because they know nothing about OT. They can't come in here and start doing what they're doing in IT. We need somebody who understands OT. Rockwell, we need you to come in. And like I told you, Dragos does that, and we're busier than ever. So you have to be prepared. You have to know, who are we going to call? What are we going to do? In OT-CERT, we have a free tabletop exercise. Ransomware hits your OT environment. What would you do? We give you a whole free tabletop. Like, you guys pay money for companies to come in and run tabletops. This is totally free. And we've used it with customers. So it's really high quality, really good. If things started going haywire in your plants, what would the plant engineers do? Would they know what to do? Would they know who to call? Or would they just say, well, I guess we better call maintenance. Something's wrong with that device. Second is a defensible architecture. And this kind of gets at the question about air gapping. You need to have an architecture that secures your OT from your IT. Back to that air gap issue, things used to be more air-gapped because plants were kind of self-contained. But now, and back to that question that came virtually, because of increased sophistication, like at Rockwell, we had just-in-time manufacturing. Our plants would interface with SAP, our ERP system, and say, okay, I'm done with what I was doing. What do I do next? What do I do next? It's a constant handshake back and forth. That's how manufacturing works now in the world. And so now that means that IT and OT have to communicate, so you're not air-gapped. And then we have remote access. During COVID, we had to open up our plants. We had to let like at Rockwell, the rule was no outside vendors are allowed in any of our plants. They have to come in remotely, so we had to just open it up. So those kinds of access need a defensible architecture behind them. We found 70% of OT-related incidents started in IT, like we talked about before. So protecting your OT environment from your IT environment is really important. Then there's visibility and monitoring. That's knowing what's happening in your OT network. I'm not pushing you to buy the Dragos platform, but if you can afford, if you make something, if you produce something, if you are from water or power, that's what's making your company money. That's what your customers are paying you for. You need to make sure that you are adequately securing that environment. There's other platforms beside Dragos, so I'm not pushing you to buy Dragos, but you need to secure that OT environment. Secure remote access, that's a biggie. I already talked about that with COVID. MFA, that applies to OT as well as IT. And risk-based vulnerability management. This is different than IT. I mean, OT and IT are very different, but this is where they're really different because in IT, we patch our computers. Like Patch Tuesday comes out, you test the patches, you push them out to the whole company, boom, boom, boom. We're on top of our vulnerability management. If you do that in a plant, imagine a power plant. If you just start patching computers, chances are the plant's going to come down. So you can't patch OT while the operation is running. Typically, they wait until they bring the environment down, like for periodic maintenance. And that's okay, because what we found, one thing that our vulnerability research team does, they look at every single ICS vulnerability that's disclosed, and every time one is disclosed, they look at it, and they look at the CVSS score, and a lot of times they're wrong. Someone said that this morning, CVSS is broken. But what we look at is this now, next, or never? And I believe this might have been invented by CERT, actually, Sam, since we came from CERT. Now, only 3% of the vulnerabilities that came out in 2023, like the Rockwell one, that was a now. Like, you need to do it now. It's being actively exploited. You need to get it now. And it's exposed. You don't have to have a device exposed to the internet with a default password. This is a serious one. Do it now. 68% of them are next. Yeah, they're exploitable, they could have a consequence, but there's no active exploit. You have to go through more, you have to get into the network, you have to get to the device, there's a lot more to it. That can wait till the next maintenance window. And we found 29%, you probably never will have to patch those. They're so deep in the network and the consequence is so minimal, you probably don't even have to worry about them. So this is a very different approach than in IT. I do want to end quickly talking about supply chain and ecosystem risk. Small companies, there were a lot of stats this morning about small companies being hit with ransomware. You heard it already. I don't need to talk about it again, but it's amazing how much they are being hit. Because our mission is safeguarding civilization, Dragos has 2 free programs. One is the Community Defense Program, and one is OT-CERT. The Community Defense Program This is for any water, gas, or electric utility that has under 100 million in revenue. We have lots of those in Pittsburgh. So if you know anyone in those organizations, please tell them. This is totally free. They get our platform for free. They get the Dragos platform. They get our threat hunting. They get our educational materials. And they're part of Neighborhood Keeper, which is a collective defense system where we put all of our customers that opt in, anonymized data, so we can see, think about the cyber avengers. If those companies had been in Neighborhood Keeper, part of community defense program, we would have seen in Neighborhood Keeper, hey, there were like 23 water utilities that all have the same threat in their environment. We better get to them fast. We don't know who they are, but we can communicate through Neighborhood Keeper and say, hey, you have something you need to pay attention to here. It's totally free. So please help spread the word. OT-CERT, I already talked about this a lot, so I won't go in too deeply, but if you have an OT environment, that includes building automation systems, you can be a member, totally free. We put out new materials all the time, and we meet once a month. We have working sessions. Some people in this room attend. I won't say who, and I won't look that way, but we have a good Pittsburgh contingent. We've been building up the Pittsburgh contingent. You come to our monthly meetings, we just talk, share tips and tricks, lessons learned. We talk about new resources that we've put out. It's my favorite day of the month. We have 45 free resources as of now. We have more that are coming out in July. We have over 2,000 members in 64 countries. This is the list of resources that we have. I'm not going to talk through all of them. Kim, do we make these slides available? Okay, if you want them, then you can let Kim know or let me know. These are all of the resources that we make available. We have best practice blogs. If you would like to join, just go to dragos.com/OT-CERT. And again, I'm not selling, it's free. And that is it. Defense is doable, and together we can safeguard civilization. Any questions or comments? We have 10 minutes. Oh, okay. How can I present this service as cybersecurity advisory firm to emerging market that lacks this service? Well, you contact me, dcappelli@dragos.com. My whole mission in life is getting the word out. We have 45 resources. We have more coming. We have people at Dragos creating the stuff for me. My main mission is getting the word out and letting people know. So just contact me and I will help you to get the word out. We have one over here on the left, my left.
There, just testing, thanks. Zachary Jones, hello. I wondered about drones, drone infrastructure, coming area. IoT is, it's intersected with it, but a lot of mobile devices, a lot of robotics in the Pittsburgh space. I'm just wondering if you'd speak about what you see being necessary to include that in infrastructural systems in the future.
And I have to admit, I know nothing about drones. I mean, I know what drones are. My husband has a drone, but I can't answer about drones. I can answer about robots. I mean, robots, they are on the manufacturing floor. They are ICS devices, so they're part of this whole picture, the whole industrial environment. But drones, I am so sorry. I do not know. But I will find out. So Australia and drones, I have two takeaways. Yes. Oh, here comes the mic.
Kind of random maybe, but I wondered about oil rigs. What do you do about the OT and oil rigs is very hard to get to, can't replace, et cetera?
Oh, yeah, we have people that go out to oil rigs. Yeah, they have to be secured. They're OT, they still are connected, and so they are just as vulnerable, and they're big targets. Oil and gas is one of the, they've traditionally been targeted by ICS malware, by adversaries. So oil rigs definitely in play, part of this whole big picture here. Hard to get to, yes. Much more difficult, but they have a lot of remote connectivity, and that increases the attack surface. Any other questions? Yes, back there.
Thank you. So, related to oil rigs, what about shipping container vessels?
Yeah, ports have definitely been under attack, and that's OT. I mean, all those cranes and everything that are moving them around, all of the logistics, it's all OT. So yes, that is definitely, in fact, on that ODNI map that I showed you, they did list ports on there. So there have been ports that have been attacked, the ICS in the ports.
Very good. The vessels themselves, though?
Like the ships?
Yes.
Not that I know of.
I mean,
but there's a lot of OT on those ships.
They don't know that the Baltimore bridge collapse was caused by a cyber attack, but it's not out of the question.
Right. Yeah. I haven't seen any known compromises or exploits against any ships. I don't know of any.
Thank you.
But I wouldn't rule it out. There's a lot of OT on there. Anything else? Oh.
Hi, Don. Thank you. Have you seen any stats that would indicate that physical security is something that maybe we should be focusing on more so than logical or about the same?
Physical security in our plants? Yes, very good point. We are partnered with the EISAC, which is the electric ISAC, and I see reports coming out from them all the time about physical attacks against electric power plants. So I can just speak about power there, but I can also tell you, being at Rockwell, like physical security of our plants was a huge, that is part of the security program. So at Rockwell, global security reported to me as the CISO, which I thought really made a lot of sense because you really need to integrate your physical and your cyber security. I also will say that the security cameras were the bane of my existence because Rockwell is in, I think, over 120 different countries, and there are security cameras that have been probably bought like 40 years ago. They're hanging up there. Oh, they're attached to the internet. Well, who knows the password? Like, how do we access them? Does anyone patch them? So security cameras, don't get me started on security cameras. So physical security is very important, and don't forget the devices, like badging devices, automatic door locks. I just saw something about that this week. So yeah, it's all part of the equation. Good question. Anything else? Oh, over here. Oh, wait, he's coming with the mic.
Yeah, I can't really say much about them, but I have read about attacks in public sources about things like on GPS navigation, that kind of thing. So that, especially in congested areas where there's lots of different countries, I have heard about that, where they're either trying to spoof navigation or jam it, something like that. So that is, I guess, if you're looking for an electronic, cyber attack on a ship, that's probably something that's relevant these days.
Thank you. Good point. Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you so much. I hope it was useful.
Okay, that was an amazing presentation. I do have a I did talk to my back-end team, and we will have Dawn's presentation on our virtual site. My tech team, he doesn't know this yet, but he needs to email that over to Megan. And if you go on the virtual site and you go to the FutureCon booth, you'll see it on there. You can grab Dawn's presentation. All of our keynote speakers are on the FutureCon YouTube channel, like Jessica Hoffman. She just came. She is a CISO for the city of Philadelphia. We had our Philadelphia event a couple months ago, and she talked about emotional intelligence. That was a really good keynote. So if you want to go hear that, that is something that I think you would want to share with your team. Dawn's presentation will be on our FutureCon YouTube site as well. So all of our keynotes are on there since we are streaming our events. Dawn will be here if anyone has any questions. She's going to do her book signing at our 2:30 break. It'll be in the back of the vendor room at the vendor table. We are going to take a break now until 1:30. I saw them pulling some chocolate cake or something out over there. So we will continue to try to keep you guys full of sugar, caffeine, and everything. We still have a great afternoon with lots more great content. So one more time, how about a round of applause for Dawn? Okay, I'll see you all back in here at 1:30. We're going to do that spin wheel. And don't forget, there's a $500 grand prize for your bingo card. So if you think your bingo card is not worth the time, somebody's going to win a lot. There's going to be prizes and that big $500 grand prize. So